Hello, I'm joined by Little Xiao, and we're going to be getting his first thoughts on the brand new 24-70 f2.8. He's been one of the first people that's been able to shoot with this lens. First of all, just give me a quick introduction about you. What do you shoot?
So I would say I'm a sport commercial photographer, mostly of dance.
So what have you been shooting with this 24-70 2.8?
So when I got asked to shoot with this lens, basically they want me to shoot sport, but with a little bit of a twist. So I wanted to combine, let's say, freedom, because like freestyle and contemporary dancer is a lot about freedom. So it was a freestyle BMX rider versus a contemporary dancer. So I was shooting in a city and actually here in this location.
And this is a truly amazing location.
Yeah, I love this location.
And you mentioned about kind of freedom. Do you think that kind of linked back to the fact that you were shooting a 24-70? You weren't limited to having to shoot a prime, for example?
So yeah, I think it's one of the lenses that I love and I use the most because it's really versatile.
Yeah.
It's the lens that if you want to go somewhere, you want to move around and you don't want to be packed with too many lenses, that's the go-to lens. So that's the reason why, you know, like freedom is kind of like relate to that.
And do you think for the style that you do, that focal length from 24-70 is really the main focal length you use, or do you often sometimes go wider or a little bit longer?
Yeah, sometimes I'll go wider because, you know, like I love like, you know, using all the values,
Sure.
but to be honest, like 24-70 is the lens that covers most of the values that I do. You can be close, you can have wide angles, so that's the lens that allows you to be the most free. And to create, like, you know, when you go somewhere and you don't know what you're gonna do yet, that's the lens that allows you to explore your imagination. And you know, when you work with a subject which is unpredictable, is the lens that allows you to be able to cover this.
And do you think that the f2.8 is enough for low light situations or depth of field control?
You use the ISO to compensate,
Yeah.
but 2.8 is a good thing. Like, you know, it's better than the, like, you know, when you started photography and you have the first kits that at 3.5, 4.0, 2.8 makes you already a big difference because you already have, like, you know, like a big composition in terms of lights. You know, when you zoom into 70mm at 2.8, it gives you a nice bokeh, a nice blur in the background. And you know, for lack of light, I would say, like, you know, it's good enough if you go low, if you lower the shutter speed. The compensation with the ISO, you know, you can always compensate and it's not too bad. Like, I tried like crazy conditions with the 2.8 and it works well.
And so after that time, what were your first thoughts on using this lens for that kind of first day?
You know, I really forgot like the fact that, you know, I was using the first version.
Yeah.
So it feels natural, but first thing that I noticed was really the way it was lighter. That was the first comment I was like, oh, it was way lighter. I can really feel it. And also the fact that it's a bit like smaller. So the length is a bit longer, but you know, it's kind of like the smaller in the hand.
Yeah.
It's easier for me to just adjusting, you know, like zooming in back and forth.
And you were also shooting stills and video, so using this lens when switching between stills and video was perfectly okay? There wasn't any troubles there?
No, it was really easy because also the fact that, you know, when you zoom in, the size of the lens doesn't change much. So when I was shooting the videos, I can just use the same lens and change the value. And then when you zoom in and zoom out, it doesn't affect, like the motor compensation of the gimbals was fine. So I could just use 24mm, 270mm as a value to shoot the video. So that was really easy. I didn't have to recalibrate it, changing the lens. That was really easy.
And do you think that the autofocusing system was noticeably faster? Did you kind of feel you were comfortable with that, shooting action, lots of moving stuff?
So, you know, the thing is, like, when I'm really in it, I don't think about those things because I'm so concentrated about, like, producing the images. But, you know, like, at the end, everything was so fast and easy. I noticed that after a couple of shots, I was like, oh, actually, you know, like, everything works perfectly.
Yeah.
So I was really relying on the combination between this new lens and the camera performances. So everything was really easy for me and smooth. And yeah, I tried all the features when, like, I was told that, oh, you know what, the new lens can be able to do this and this and that. Okay, I was trying to feel all the different possibilities that the lens was doing. So I tried the dolly zoom, so on a gimbal.
Yeah.
I was testing the fact that if you change the values of the zoom, if the focus is still catching the subject. I was just trying to make a nice walk and a nice zoom out to make sure the dolly zoom was good.
And so I guess kind of the important question is this a lens that's going to find its way into your camera bag that replaces your old 24-70?
Yeah, I mean, you know, like right after the shoot, that's what I said. I was like, that's my new lens, you know,
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
You know, for different reasons. Like first, the reason, like the main reason is also the size and the weight.
Yeah.
For me, I pay a lot of attention about that because, you know, like, you know, when you travel so much. And the quality is really important. And when I checked all the images after that, the autofocus and everything, every feature was like kind of like improved. And also like the lens being super versatile for videos.
Sure.
That's really helpful.
Well, it certainly sounds like that you've captured some amazing stills and some amazing video. Thank you so much for sharing those first thoughts with me. If you'd like to go and see more about what Xiao's been shooting with the 24-70, then check out the links in the description and there'll be more videos on the Nikon Europe YouTube channel. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.